We're about to start the meeting, folks. Very well, ladies. Now the microphone's on, I'll be nice to you. Welcome to this evening's meeting of the Joint Transportation Board. I have a brief statement to read before the beginning, as is traditional. There is no fire alarm planned for this evening. Should an alarm sound, please leave via the nearest available emergency exits. The two exits are through the glass door behind you to my left and through the double doors to the riverside behind you. Please do not use the exit at the back to my right, as this is currently restricted due to the works outside. Please meet at the Tower House car park, which is over there somewhere. Everybody knows this. Members of the public are welcome to record the meeting using whatever non-disruptive methods they think suitable. This meeting is being minuted, streamed and recorded. And I would like to remind everyone present that this meeting is being filmed and made available to view in live and archive form on the Council's website. If you are seated in the public gallery, it is possible that the cameras may capture your image. If you wish to avoid being filmed, it is recommended you make a member of staff aware who can direct you where to sit. Finally, the Westgate garden gates on the riverside are locked at sunset, which was about half an hour ago. So members of the public must leave by the glass door to the side. There we go. Wonderful. Welcome. Do we have any apologies for absence, John?
Yes, we have apologies from Councillors Buckman, Thomas and Chamberlain.
Wonderful. And do we have any substitutes?
Yes, we have Councillor Mackenzie for Councillor Buckman and Councillor Paget for Councillor Thomas.
Welcome, Councillor Mackenzie and Councillor Paget. This is your first JTB? Is this your first as well, Harry? Oh, how exciting. Well, let's get on with it. You must be bursting with excitement. Do we have any declarations of interest before we begin? Have you received any, John? No. If you don't have a declaration of interest, if something occurs on an agenda item throughout the course, please sing out and we can still record it later. You don't have to just do them at the beginning. Wonderful. We're rattling through this. First item proper on the agenda, the minutes of the meeting held on the 17th of June. Do we have any issues with those minutes? And if not, can we take by general assent that they are okay? We are fine on general assent, are we? Are we okay? Excellent. So agreed by general assent. We have no members of the public speaking tonight. So we can move straight on to item 6, which is the new vice chair and the parish council representative. The vice chair and parish council representatives are appointed by their respective bodies. So the vice chair, which I believe is Mr. Chamberlain, was appointed by KCC, but he's not with us tonight to receive his badge and sash of office. There isn't a badge and sash of office, unfortunately. I wish there was. And the parish council representative is Councillor Steve Bailey of Chesterfield Parish Council, who was selected by CALC. But unfortunately, Steve can't make it this evening either. So that is item 6 concluded. Rattling on to item number 7, and we might actually spend some time on item number 7, which is the Active Travel Fund update. And I'm very pleased to say that Jamie's joined us here from KCC this evening. Anybody not know Jamie at all? You can give a brief intro to those who haven't met you before, Jamie, and I'll let you crack on. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'm Jamie Watson, KCC, the Active Travel Manager. I have 3 teams. One looks at implementation of infrastructure, so things like cycleways, footways. We also look at some Section 106 works, such as traffic signals, junction improvements. I have another team which looks at intervention, so working with all the districts and boroughs in Kent, looking at what we can do with any bids for funding, ideas that come about that can improve active travel, and a third team that looks after safer active journeys, so working with the schools, bikeability, pedestrian walking once a week, that type of thing. And tonight I'm reporting on an update on the active travel agenda. So Kent County Council is progressing its active travel agenda for Canterbury and Kent, focusing on improving walking, wheeling and cycling infrastructure. This report highlights the development of the local and county-wide plans, the local cycling and walking infrastructure plan known as a LC-WIP, and a Kent cycling and walking infrastructure plan called the KC WIP, to prioritise and coordinate active travel projects with recent public consultations and ongoing work to align district and county strategies. Several schemes funded by Active Travel England are underway or completed. There's a new funding rounds and they are supporting further design, construction and maintenance projects with strong emphasis on collaboration between KCC, districts and Active Travel England to secure resources and ensure long-term sustainability of the network. I'm happy to try and take any questions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Jamie. Do we have any questions on active travel? Of course, Harry.
Well, I did warn you I had a lot of questions. Okay, so on point 4.8 in the active travel tranche update, where it discusses the Riverside cycle route, I was in contact with fellow councillors and an officer in KCC Active Travel about this recently, because there were inquiries about who owns the land off Vauxhall Road and Broad Oak Road, because you and KCC want to secure permission to build the cycle path on a segment of it. I was able to find out that we in Canterbury City Council own that land, and I passed that on to the officer that I was liaising with. Is there any update that you could share with us on that? So has there been communication between KCC and CCC about obtaining that bit of land to build the cycle path? You know, I really support it. I think it's a great idea to build the cycle path there. It will link up my residents in Broad Oak and Stowe with the rest of Canterbury and not take up any more room on the road. So yeah, I was just wondering if there's an update on that. Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Ruth Gowdy. I'm ever so sorry I'm sat here. It looks as though I'm hiding. It's because I've got a bad knee and I can't bend it. We've got various lengths of Riverside Path that are in different stages of design. We've just put in a planning application for the length from Vauxhall Avenue to Vauxhall Road, and we own that land, apart from a tiny bit that's adjacent to the Audi garage that goes up the side of Vauxhall Road towards the roundabout. So all of that is one planning application that we're in for now, and that is that's going to be the bid that we put forward for the next tranche of funding. We're also looking at what happens after that. So we want to get cyclists across Vauxhall Road and then onto a piece of land. And I'm not sure whether this is the same piece that you're talking about, but our land investigations have not shown that we own it. They've shown that it's owned by a private person, and with some of it leased to, I'm going to say South East Water, but that might not be exactly right, but it's a utility company. And they're happy for us to use the strip that they own, which is adjacent to Broad Oak Road, but we actually, we can't go ahead with only their say-so because they only lease it, they're not the landowners. If that's possible, and we're able to acquire or use that strip of land, then that would connect to the Stowe Link Road when that's constructed. So that's the sort of grand plan going forwards. Does that help?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. I suppose it doesn't. I mean, like, I thought I'd found that it was owned by the council, but like whoever owns it, you know, whatever gets the job done. Thank you for that update.
Councillor Bland.
Yeah, can I ask, bearing in mind that there is already one established cycle route between Charlton and Canterbury, can I ask if there's any proposals in the local cycle and walking plan for any new routes, new cycling routes from Charlton to Canterbury, bearing in mind ideas about proposed development and so on?
I think that the route that's there is really well used and much appreciated. It does have some flooding issues from time to time, but it's the right place to put an off-road cycle route that you want to be accessible to the maximum number of people, because it's flat and it doesn't go through. It's flat and direct. We haven't got additional proposals for routes from Chartham in the LC WIP because that one's already there. What we've got is connections to it from development. So it's a bit lacking in bridges along the way, and the Tunford Bridge needs improving because it's got steps on both approaches. So it's more getting more people able to use it.
Mr. Brady.
Thanks, Chair. Just coming back to that, you said the route from Chartham to Canterbury has flooding issues. Now, as we know, once something floods, people get it in their heads that I don't want to be using that because I can't use it regularly because I'm not sure if it rains and there's going to be flooding, so I'm going to jump in the car. Is there any proposals using some of the Tranche 6 money or anything moving forward to alleviate from those flooding issues, to do raised banks or something like that, where naturally the riverside, which fully supportive, as you know from the beginning, I've been championing it with Jamie, and there are some flooding issues there and there's going to be a raised platform. Is there anything to mitigate for the flooding issues from Chartham to Canterbury? Thank you.
You can't put banks in because if you do, you make a bund, which then stops the floodwater, and the Environment Agency get quite excited about that. It's got to be able to dissipate over so it's got the land is kind of designed to flood. What we could do is look at raising it in places, which is what we're going to do with the Riverside Path on the Surrey side. I haven't put it forward as a bid at the moment, but if it sort of fits the criteria, that is definitely something that we would be able to do.
I think, unfortunately, there was a raised walkway on those meadows for a bit and it was burnt down not long ago, which is a bit of a problem. Mr. Brady?
So is it worthwhile, Mike, reaching out to the parish to then communicate with you to see what could be furthered on that?
For sure. Yeah, thank you.
Any more on active travel? Oh, go on. Oh, yes, sorry. I was panicking then. Councillor Watkins. So I completely forgot your name then, Dan. Sorry.
Thanks. There has been a brief outage, so I shall forgive you. But it's nice to be back. It feels like a smaller crowd than when I left, but maybe that's just tonight. But great, good to see the paper on active travel and things moving along. I just had a question because we've got KCC and CCC here, and a couple of the projects we're talking about here that hopefully will happen in the future to help people with cycling and wheeling and walking. There's a reference to a need to sort out a maintenance agreement between the two councils. In a few years henceforth, that might not be such a thorny issue if we are one council, but anything involving two councils, in my experience, is always quite tricky to resolve. So what's the status of that? How is that discussion going to take place? Because presumably both councils would rather not have the maintenance obligation, but equally if they both take that view, it will never happen. So it'd be good just to hear your views on it, and you won't be obliged to follow through on it as such. It'd just be good to hear what the status is.
Thank you. Yes, it is a really sticking point, is the long-term maintenance, or even the short-term maintenance actually, of particularly rural routes and ones that go off highway. KCC, as Canterbury, the revenue budgets are very tight, so we struggle on the revenue budgets. KCC at present is saying that they will not maintain any rural routes in addition to what they've got already. And Active Travel England, who provide us with the funding, don't give us maintenance, or certainly not long-term maintenance funding. So it sort of stops there for some of the rural routes. We're still waiting on rural guidance from Active Travel England, which might come with some budget. Let's be hopeful. And in the next year or so, hopefully it'll be a multi-year funding settlement. So we'll see what comes from that. But it has been a sticking point. But there is an update that Ruth can give you on these specific routes. Thank you.
It's very much work in progress, to be truthful. I have got a very small budget for cycle route maintenance. It wouldn't cover a bridge failure or something like that, but it covers day-to-day litter picking and vegetation clearance and that sort of thing. We're talking internally about how we can improve that, because we don't want these routes to fail, and we don't want to have to be in a position where we're not able to agree to design anymore because we can't look after them. So we're just talking about it still at the moment. Yeah, nothing concrete yet, but hopefully there'll be a way forward. Sorry, that's a bit woolly.
That's fine. And just very quick follow-up question. I'm sort of taking from it, Jamie, that rural routes are the big challenge. Does that mean, therefore, that KCC will take on the maintenance of kind of urban cycle paths? Can I take that? That's what you mean in that regard. And of the three in front of us, would it be just maybe the Blean Woods path which you would count as rural, or more than that?
If I start with the Crab and Winkle, that's on the old railway line for the majority of that, and that's within Canterbury City Council's land. So there is highway elements leading up to and from that, but the majority of that route is off highway. So that needs to be sorted, and fairly quickly, because we want to put in a construction bid for that element of the railway works. The Riverside is majority is all of cases in Canterbury's ownership, so Canterbury need to work out how they're going to maintain that element. So we can get construction funding and development funding, but the maintenance is the issue. And the Braggs Lane, a huge part of that is through the woodland, and that is bringing some real difficulties on understanding who's going to maintain that long term, because they need to deal with the Forestry Commission there as well, or the Woodland Trust, and there's raised walkways which are a real maintenance burden, potentially long term. So definitely much harder for us to look at the rural. The urban through residential areas is mostly on highway, which we would maintain because it's hard surface, most of it.
Any more on active travel? Oh, Councillor McKenzie.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Another thing I wanted to pick up was on point 4 of the schemes that have been awarded funding by Active Travel England for development. It states about the £75,000 that was allocated for a zebra crossing on Island Road in Surrey. So this is my ward, and I've had residents express desire for a safe crossing in that exact area before, especially a few years ago when a gentleman was tragically hit on that junction. So I was just wondering if, I'm someone who's new to this committee, I'm not usually on it. Could someone please explain to me in more detail why the zebra crossing cannot go there? Like I read about the narrow pavements and narrow carriageway. Can you please explain why that disqualifies that location to me? And if it cannot go there, while it may not be ideal, is there anywhere up the road a bit that it could be placed instead? I know the junction of Sleigh Road on Island Road has a very wide pavement where a zebra crossing could go. Thank you.
I don't have the detail on exactly why it's been investigated, and I understand that the footway or the verge widths are too narrow, so we need to have a wide enough carriageway to cater for two-way traffic, plus the sensible width of footway. And I understand that's causing the problem is there's not sufficient highway width, existing highway width, to get all we need in there. But what I will do is I'll get the officer that's looked at that to talk to you to see whether there is another location fairly close to it, because in fact I had a meeting today with Active Travel England, and on this particular scheme I said, can we move the £75,000 to another project, one that's been already looked at, or one of the named schemes that might benefit from further funding, or can we put it to a new scheme? And they're suggesting if we can come up with a new scheme and close to the vicinity of that one, it might be looked on favourably. So from this meeting, I'll get the local officer to have a chat with you, if that's okay.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much.
Mr. Soul.
Thank you, Chair. Can I just make a brief comment on the Littlebourne 20 mile an hour limit scheme? I think that's been a really good use of the Active Travel Fund, because many of the roads through the village there don't have pavements on. And this has now enabled people to walk much more safely to school, to the shops, and especially along Nargate Street, where it, it can be quite dangerous. And evidence that I've heard from people in the village is that traffic speeds have slowed down. So it's a really good use of not a lot of money to make a huge difference to the village. And I'd also like to compliment the crews who put the scheme in. It was put in very early in the morning, about 6 o'clock in the morning, and it was all done. People just woke up and it was suddenly there with all the new signs and the painting, and it's been a real success. So yeah, please pass on my thanks to the teams who actually installed that scheme.
Well, thank you for that. I certainly will pass on that. It's lovely to get a compliment. I also we're looking at doing the monitoring, post-monitoring. So I've asked the officer that was dealing with that to, at some stage in the next 6 to 12 months, do some monitoring to compare pre and post. So rather than it just being a bit anecdotal, we can see some facts and data behind that as well. Thank you, Chair.
Mr. Brady.
Thank you for your indulgence, Chair. I think this lends itself to a wider conversation and debate, probably not for now, of rural roads and speed limits in general. I mean, if we're looking at Vision Zero, and don't get triggered, Mark, that's not net zero. If we're looking at Vision Zero, are there conversations between different departments in highways and yourself where the national speed limit on some rural roads is incredibly inappropriate? Do we work with police officers and other departments to look to see, in general, how we can make roads safer to get in front of the Vision Zero priorities? Just wondering what the wider debate is on that. Thank you.
Nationally, there's an issue. So all rural roads are de-restricted. So, well, not all rural roads, but they haven't got they've got the national speed limit. So there is an issue just that we need to deal with nationally, because just driving through Kent, going to East Sussex or whatever, we want the driver to understand exactly what's happening. We have been working with other counties where they've implemented significant areas of 20 in rural network. We're seeing how that's going. It is expensive to do that, very expensive to do that, because at present it needs lots of signing, whereas the de-restriction just has a national speed limit at the entry and exit points. So probably not enough discussion on that, but there is some. I don't think we're in a point yet, certainly in Kent, for us to look at widespread 20 mile per hour, and we're relying on the communities informing us where they want it, as a general rule, in much smaller areas.
Thank you. Anything more on active travel? I would take the opportunity if you have anything on active travel, because we don't have a lot of officers on the rest of the items on the agenda. So this is the one you like to get an answer on if you've got a question. But if not, oh, go on then, Connie. Sorry, Councillor Nolan. Or is it Mrs. Nolan tonight? I don't know. I don't know what's going on.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to say that I think it's an excellent scheme, and I'd like to commend your team. I know they've worked very hard with sort of community groups. And I just wanted to say, well done, and it seems to be going quite well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Lovely. In that case, we shall move swiftly on to item number 8, which is the Highway Works Programme. And you'll see from the rest of these, unfortunately, Kevin wasn't able to join us here tonight from KCC, so he's not able to give the verbal update on this. What I will do is do you all the courtesy of assuming that you have read the papers before, so you're completely au fait with the Highway Works Programme as it stands. Are there any specific questions on that? We can discuss it. We may not be able to get a direct answer this evening. Sir Nolan, sorry.
There's 2 points I want to raise. The first one is about drainage. Now, we all know that Canterbury, historic city, is in fact a basin and surrounded by hills, so that when it rains, it tends to collect at the bottom of that basin. And we had a terrible situation not that long ago where, and we understand as well, there was a collapsed sewer that didn't help, where sort of buildings and businesses were flooded in the St Dunstan's area. And also I'd like to thank the highways staff who came on a walkabout with myself and Mr Brady. I just wanted to say I've read through this sort of list of works, and I can't see St Dunstan's listed. And we were told that there would be works taking place, you know, and drains would be cleared. And I'd also like to say that in the spirit of collaboration between Canterbury City Council and KCC, I actually did say, you know, sort of one of the things that we could do is a joint publicity exercise, clean your drains out, because I also noticed on the walk around, it wasn't just the street drains that were blocked up, and I name Kent Fire and Rescue as having a forecourt with 2 blocked drains. So we want to work with you, we want to work collaboratively, but we do need to get onto your scheme of cleaning the drains out, because we know it's November next month. We know it's a rainy period. It's going to rain and will rain, and we know there's going to be flooding again, and we'll have exactly the same problem. We also had, anxious mums contacting Mr Brady and myself because talking about sort of travel to work, walk to work and school routes, school children were having to go through underpasses that were like little swimming pools because of blocked gullies and drains. And again, I can't see this on the works. So I understand that the relevant KCC person isn't here, but if perhaps you could take it back that we'd like to see a bit of action, please. Thank you.
Yep, we'll make a note of that as well. And again, the same will go for that. And I should point out for future is once the agenda comes out, it would be, if you have any issues, always really helpful to address any questions to the officer before the meeting as well. And they're more than happy to respond to those, to give an answer on the night. And that's something that stands. So we can do that on the back of this as well. But for future meetings, if anything appears on the agenda and that's an issue, then more than happy for the officer to face questions beforehand as well.
Chair, it's a case of, Mr Brady and I are chasing this up, and we use every opportunity to publicise the fact that we are on it.
And so you have done. Anybody else on the... Councillor Mackenzie. He's been the new boy tonight and asking all the questions. Have you brought me an apple as well?
I'm afraid not. I'll run through a few technical questions first. So some of the scheduled works were listed to have been done today or like within the last few days. So I suppose I was just so I can go back to my parishes really. Like do you know if they actually were started today as they've been listed on this table? Can that be confirmed? I was also going to ask the locations of the street lighting replacements are listed in terms of the towns they're in rather than the parishes, whereas like the other improvements were listed in terms of the parish they're in. I was just wondering why that is, because like there are lots of roads across our district that have the same or similar names, and it can make it a bit hard to identify where exactly these improvements are happening when it's just in Canterbury or Herne Bay or whatever. And then I'll ask another question, and actually this relates to your portfolio, Councillor Ricketts, so maybe you'll be able to answer it. So I welcome that, the road will be widened and the bus lane will be extended on Surrey Road going towards Turtle Road, because, you know, that will surely help us with the operation of the Surrey Road Park and Ride, which is obviously core to our transport strategy, and reduce congestion on that place, which we all know is heavily prone to congestion. So I just wonder where the S106 money for that particular work is coming from, because that's not been listed. Probably could find out through planning, but, you know, since we're here, I may as well ask.
Where has the money come from? It's come from Howe Barracks. Yeah, from their planning agreement. Yeah.
Councillor Prentice.
Thank you, Chair. Just a question on street lighting. We have a large number of Biggleston lampposts in Canterbury. I think Councillor Nolan was itching to get in on that one as well. For those of you who don't know, these are the historic pattern of lamppost produced by the Biggleston Foundry in Canterbury. Of course, that foundry is no longer in existence. I have been told on several occasions in the past that a modern replica Biggleston lamppost is available. In Cossington Road in Canterbury recently, residents are annoyed to see the historic Biggleston posts replaced by modern street lamps. If a cheap enough replacement can be found that replicates the historic Biggleston post, can we not just replace the historic ones like for like with the modern equivalent, which to all intents and purposes actually looks exactly the same? The reason I raise this is that, you know, we do have 3 World Heritage sites in Canterbury city centre, and even when the Littlebourne Road works were done a few years ago with the walking and cycling scheme there, which I do welcome and I don't have issues with, but we did see a number of modern style lampposts installed. They probably work quite well in modern developments. They just don't work so well in a historic setting where, you know, it's a conservation area in many parts. So I appreciate we might not get a very detailed answer on that tonight, but I would like to see an answer on why those Biggleston posts can't be replaced. And again, you may have some insight on this yourself, Chair. Thank you.
I don't have any insight on that myself, I'm afraid, but it is something that I'll try and I'll do my best to chase up and get an answer. But yes, absolutely. If the Biggleston lampposts are there, then they should be replaced as much as possible with like for like, and I think we'll have a look at how we can do that. Councillor Brady.
Just on that, there's been a couple of lights that have been replaced in my division, and they you can't buy the metal lampposts anymore because the factory is no more. However, there are, and Jamie, officers probably know, there are casts that are going to be purchased from a company. They will KCC put in a replacement temporary that looks like that cast whilst they're waiting for that cast and replacements to come in. So I can engage with Connie, who it is her division, to then engage with Paul, and I'll send through the officer's details. On your point about questions before, perhaps when we're talking about drainage, we can have a little bit of a briefing note from the officer. I understand there's a 2-year cycle. Now we're going to have a multi-year settlement that will be a lot easier to formulate budgets. Is there going to be a business plan put forward so that 2-year cycle can be narrowed? Because if floods are going to be costing KCC more money than a couple of officers to be able to improve and shorten the time for those drains to be cleared, then obviously it's a common sense approach to managing drainage in Canterbury.
Yep, I'll have a chat with the officer and see what we can do and have a look at the drainage stuff as well. But that's something I suspect we'll have to keep pushing from various different angles on as well. But from certainly previous conversations that we've had on that, then it is always funding, and it is always how often can we afford to do it rather than how often we would like to do it, which is often the case. Ms Nolan, I keep getting that wrong.
Thank you, Councillor Ricketts. I just want to sort of pursue the Biggleston one because, it's a historic city. It's 3 World Heritage sites in the city. People come here because they appreciate our quirkiness in many ways, and it is a shame when we lose things. And I'm just wondering whether we could actually borrow a practice from another tourist site. I'm thinking about the fact that Stratford on Avon, not Stratford on Thames, Stratford on Avon, I noticed they have their historic lampposts sponsored by companies. And that's a way of, I understand, budgets are tight, but one of the things I'm sure we could do is tap up some of our local companies. And they have a very discreet sign on the lamppost. And they're beautiful lampposts, and the Biggleston lampposts are equally beautiful. And we also have to remember it isn't just the lampposts that we've got around. We've also got, from time to time, you might see them, the fact that Canterbury used to produce its own electricity, and there are those electricity things. I just think we need to cherish our street furniture rather than just see it as sort of its lighting. And I know, Canterbury always thinks it's a special case, but in this particular instance, I think it is a special case.
Lovely. I'm sure if there's a revenue-raising opportunity, then they'd be delighted to explore that. But I think that's a very good idea. Councillor Mackenzie.
Okay, thank you, Chair. It's been my last time, I promise. The Surrey Link Road came up in the agenda. So I wanted to ask about this because it's a big thing that a lot of my residents, both for it and against it, care deeply about. In the last few years, there have been various issues with the Surrey Link Road, including funding shortfalls, and it's not always been clear whether this project has remained financially viable. And also, I never believe rumours, and I've not come here to peddle rumours, but I have heard some that with a change of administration in KCC, that the Link Road will be scrapped. Now, I can't see how that could happen, but I was wondering whether tonight that rumour could be officially put to bed and whether we could have a very clear understanding of what the future is of the Surrey Link Road project. Thank you.
I've certainly not heard a rumour that it's going to be scrapped. Has anybody heard that rumour? I'm loath to suggest the Canterbury JTB can once and for all scotch that rumour, but there's absolutely nothing that I've seen that would indicate that's the case. So I don't know if there's any more comfort that can be given to Councillor Mackenzie.
Chair, not for me tonight, but what I can do, as I've done with the others, is get the appropriate officer to contact you from major projects to give you the latest update. That's okay.
Mr. Soul, then Mr. Prentice. Sorry, I promoted you, Paul. Councillor Prentice.
Thank you, Chair. On highway maintenance, I'd just like to raise the issue of the Elan Valley Road going all the way from its start, just above Bishopsbourne, out of my division through to Folkestone and all the way to Etching Hill. And it's not so much the standard of the road, because, yep, there are potholes there and they get reported and they get repaired. But it's the white lines. And I know I can report missing white lines on the KCC website, and I do occasionally. But if you drive down the length of that road, which must be about 10 miles, there are parts of it where you have lovely white dotted lines down the centre of the road and on the edge of the road. And then 500 metres later, there'd be nothing. And then there'd be a bit more, and then there'd be something faded, and there's no pattern to it. It's not like some's in the villages and some's out in the countryside. It's just a real mishmash and potluck as to whether you've got white lines or you haven't. So what I wanted to know is there a maintenance schedule for long stretches of road, and if so, how can I get that whole stretch of road repainted probably about 80% of it needs doing, as opposed to me just because I have reported it on the full website just saying, can you paint the whole road? Well, that doesn't seem to be achieving anything because it's not just like a few white lines at the end of a junction. So a big project like that, how can that get onto a maintenance programme?
It is difficult to get significant lengths, and what tends to happen is when resurfacing takes place, they'll refresh whilst it's been resurfaced, or when an inspector, and most of the A and B roads are inspected regularly, an inspector thinks it hits the intervention levels for refreshing, and that's so there are some inspections done on that. But I would suggest that there isn't a maintenance schedule that deals with significant lengths because they tend to break it down into little bits. So I can't answer you whether there is a schedule, but again, I'll try and find out and get the appropriate officer to contact you. And I guess similar to drainage and having a briefing note on where and when decisions are made on white lining interventions, that perhaps that could be included with a drainage brief as well.
Thank you. Councillor Prentice.
Thank you. And just to hopefully point out on page 35 of our papers, there is a small section on the Storey Link Road. And because I'm also aware that in at least one recent planning application at the City Council, we have been approving developments that will provide contributions to the Storey Link Road. So because these developments are being passed and the money is being agreed to pay for it, I would hope it is going ahead. I think Councillor Mackenzie does raise an important point, however, that a little bit more momentum does need to be seen on the Link Road to avoid any rumours circulating that something's not going ahead because people don't see spades in the ground. I think this is about as shovel ready as we get. If the archaeological investigations are ongoing, people will expect to see actual work starting soon. So probably a plea really to some communication about it when we know that work's going to start ASAP really.
Yeah, as I said, I've not heard anything to change the start date, which is early next year, I believe. So there's not heard anything that the process has slowed down or anything. So yes, Mr. Brady.
I think an email was sent today or yesterday from Streetworks about updated planning and proposal for that. I'm frantically trying to look to see where it might have been sent, but it has got maps, etc. And that was, I think it might have been sent today, so it should be in people's inboxes.
I'll see if I can dig the Streetworks. Obviously, I would expect nothing less from a member of this this board than to read every single Streetworks email that they get. Which is very well done, Mr. Brady. Yes, we'll have a look if we can find that. If you find that before we do, then that'd be useful to circulate that around. We can maybe get that sent out with the minutes as well, just to add further evidence to the fact that it's still all going okay. Do we have any more on the Highway Works programme? And I will stress again that Jamie's very kindly handling a lot of these questions, but it's very much not in his area and won't be on the others as well. Anything more on Highway Works? Lovely. Now, you will be sad to know that the A299 update was only a verbal update, and since that was Kevin to give that, then we won't be able to do that item this evening. If there is anything that particularly you wanted to discuss on the A299, I'm happy to feed that back to the officer and we can see maybe if there's anything that we can include in an update outside of this. Or alternatively, you could join the A299 group, which I understand meets fairly regularly and discusses those issues, and officers do attend quite regularly. Which moves us on to, I think, probably the showpiece agenda item update on pothole repairs. Again, these are all listed in the papers. I suspect there may be some questions as to why things aren't listed or as to the works, but if you've got any, then obviously we can feed those back. Do we have any pothole inquiries? I think this must be a first. Wonderful. If anything does occur on potholes, then obviously we can go through the usual routes as well. But in response to this as well, I'm happy to feed those back to the officer as we go. And that moves us on. Yes, to monitoring of previous decisions. Again, I think probably quite happy to take that as read in the minutes, unless you want to update on anything in particular, Ruth.
I think these are all my updates that I've put in.
Yeah.
So unless members have got questions about them.
Ms. Nolan.
Thank you. It's just a clarification on the closure of Pound Lane. I've always read this, that it's closed to motorised traffic, therefore will be open to walkers and to cyclists. Is that right? You can confirm.
That's absolutely it. Yes, it came to the JTB, I think 2 years ago, as a proposal that we'd advertised, and it was agreed because of the works that were taking place at Westgate 1. It was closed to absolutely everybody, and we've simply sort of moved on from that. It'll be 2 removable bollards at each end and 2 static bollards at the far end, if you like, so that we can get emergency vehicles through if we need to, and cyclists and walkers can use the full width of the highway. And it'll be repaved as part of the Westgate Square works as well.
Thank you for that update. And I think it's because it's taken so long that people are starting to get concerned that it's going to be a permanent, because yeah, I do understand. I mean, I've walked up and down there myself several times, and it wasn't safe when you had, motorised vehicles. So yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, I think it was a little over 2 years ago, because I think it was my first one chairing JTB that came up, and it was there were a lot of concerns about how safe that will be, what the signage will be to stop people turning in along there as well. And I think you're absolutely right, because those works have taken a long time and it's been wrapped up and the decision was made a long time ago. But obviously we have to wait for the rest of the works to happen. Councillor Prentice.
Thank you, and it's relevant to directly outside the Guildhall here. Some while ago, we did pass the plans for the Levelling Up projects. I have been approached by a taxi driver locally who's wondering whether there is any flexibility on the proposal to permanently close that lay-by just outside the Guildhall that's being currently, the area is being used as storage for the building work that's going on at the moment. Obviously, the plans have gone through for the work and the work's in progress. I just wondered, is it too late to revisit those works if there is a particular desire to use that as a, I think was probably quite a useful taxi rank. It would be using less materials. It possibly wouldn't be as that disruptive to reinstate. Obviously not at the moment, but when the works are finished on Westgate Square. Thank you.
I'll have to take it back and get the engineers who are leading on the scheme to contact you direct. I think that the idea is that the footway will be widened to take up all of that that road area, but that's only what I think, and it would be better if it came to you from the horse's mouth.
Thank you. Any more on previous decisions? Wonderful. Do we? We just need to note that by general assent, if everyone's happy to do that. In fact, probably should have been doing that on every previous item as well. You have a question, Councillor Mackenzie, or are you assenting? Excellent. Thank you for your assent. No, we haven't agreed to anything. I don't think we actually need to be honest, because these are all to note. So, are there any other items of business? Councillor Prentice.
Chair, in the minutes of the last meeting, we did say that we would try and get Stagecoach along for a future general presentation on bus services in the district and an opportunity for us to ask questions. I just wondered if that was planned in for a future meeting.
I have spoken to Stagecoach, and they do have such a presentation and somebody that comes to do them, as I'm sure you're well aware. We weren't able to arrange it for this one. The next meeting is our big annual shindig for double yellow lines and the like, so it might not be possible to fit them in then. But I think what we'll do is I have had those conversations with Stagecoach. They're quite happy to come along, and it was just a timing issue in terms of when we could get them here. So we'll have a look and see what the agenda on the 24th of March looks like. I suspect it might not allow time, but we shall see. They've gone a bit quicker in recent years than they used to, the double yellow lines meetings. But if we can't get them for that one, then we'll see if we can line them up in conversation with whoever will be the chair next year to see whether we can get that scheduled. But yeah, we have had conversations but weren't able to do it for this one, so I apologise. Anybody else like to raise anything? Wonderful. And I've ruined the next item of business because I've just told you that the next meeting is on the 24th of March, Tuesday the 24th of March at 7 p.m. That will be our annual, amongst other things, the annual double yellow line and various other things. Ruth, would you like to?
I'd like to take the opportunity to say that we say it's an annual review and we close the list in December, but really we would like, if you've got any requests for parking amendments, sooner the better, because otherwise it's an awful lot of work at Christmas time, and ideally before the end of November, so that we can get everything investigated, drawn up, and ready to advertise in the new year. That would be super helpful. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ruth. That's an excellent point. I've put a couple through. It does feel sometimes like it's a long way off that meeting, but actually, yeah, as you say, we do need to get those all in and sorted. So if there's anything burning, you've got any residents that have spoken to you about those, then get those drawn up. The team is very, very good at investigating them and putting them on, but the key is to get them out. Well, it is one. I like to pretend it's a team, though. He does the work of a team. But yeah, I think yeah, if you can get those through, so it's well worth looking out on. And I suspect we don't need to exclude the press and public. There's no other urgent business as far as I'm aware. So unless anybody has anything that they would like to discuss at 19:53, I declare the meeting closed. Thank you very much.